My name is Brigitte Lenormand, and I'm the principal investigator of the Rijeka Fiume in Flux research project created at the University of British Columbia, Okanagan in Canada. As part of this project, we have created a mobile phone application that allows you to explore the history of Rijeka. The theme for the 2022 European Day of Jewish Culture is renewal. And so we're so pleased that we're able to participate by including 5 new markers that share Rijeka's vibrant Jewish history with people who want to learn more about the city's past. These markers were created by Rina Brumini, who is an active participant in raising awareness about Rijeka's Jewish heritage. The Rijeka Fiume in Flux app was created to enable people to explore the rich and complex history of the city of Rijeka. Many different communities have made this city their home in the context of multiple different states. Only in the 20th century, the city was part of the Habsburg Empire, an autonomous state, Italy, Yugoslavia, and Croatia, not to mention other more fleeting regimes associated with war and its aftermath. There is no one single story to tell about the Rijeka, but rather many different stories. It is our great pleasure to now be able to highlight the story of Rijeka's Jewish community.
When you first upload the app, remember to allow it to enable your camera and location. These are essential for the app to work properly. The first screen you encounter provides you with a series of choices: self-guided tours, panoramas, the search function, markers that are near me, my markers, and the About page. Tours. The tours are one researcher's attempt to make connections between markers related to a particular theme. Concrete Jungle. This tour, curated by Natasha Yankovic, is an exploration of the city's concrete architectural heritage. Hidden Rijeka. This tour, curated by Vjeran Pavlakovic, highlights landmarks in the city that have since been erased. Blended City, Divided City. This tour, curated by Gruia Badescu, examines the multicultural heritage of the city, as well as the impact on the built environment of the border that ran through the city after the First World War. Ghosts of Rijeka. This tour, curated by Marco Abram, reflects on the long shadow of 2 important historical figures who impacted the city, Gabriele D'Annunzio and Josip Broz Tito. People on the Move. This tour, curated by Francesca Rolandi, examines the impact of migration on the city's evolution. Visitors also have an opportunity to enjoy a sample of the city's most prominent landmarks in the city center through the essentials. When you open up a tour, you get a brief description of what the tour is, and then you can click on Go to Tour, and when you see the map, you can start the tour. This takes you to your very first marker, which you can tap on to open up the card and find out more about it. Then you can go back and move on to the next marker. And so on, and so on. Here we are again at the main menu. The panorama function is not yet fully developed, but it will allow users to look at numerous markers from a single location, either the breakwater or Terset Castle, which provides a bird's eye view of the port and the city center. Let's look at the search function. The search function allows users to explore markers according to their interests. They can browse markers according to categories, which group markers according to the kind of activity associated with the sites, industry, infrastructure, military and government, public space and monuments, political or cultural associations, and education, residential, or leisure. If you click on a category, let's click on politics, culture, and education, for example. You can see all of the markers associated with that theme. You can look at them using the list function, or you can use the map function. You'll notice there's a big cluster in the city center. If we click on this marker near the edge, you'll find the Great Synagogue. If you're wondering about the color of the markers, here we can see orange, brown, and green, for example. The color indicates the time period which the marker was first associated with. Indeed, you can also browse markers by time period. Here we are back at the search screen. Click on periods. And then let's have a look, for example, at the period of divided city Italy, Yugoslavia, which covers most of the period between the two world wars. Here you can see all the markers that were significant during that time period. You'll notice there are markers of different colors, and that's because it includes markers that were also important in previous periods, but were equally important for this period. You'll also notice they have different icons that represent the different kinds of activities that took place there, or categories. Let's take a closer look at a marker, this one over here. This is one of our new Jewish history markers, the Orthodox Synagogue. You can scroll through the images and you can click on an image and then you'll see a caption and source information. And you can always turn it sideways if you want a closer look. On the main marker page, below the picture, there's a description of the marker. You can scroll to the bottom. Some markers have references in case you wish to read more about the topic, and some also have videos, and there's always the name of the researcher. You can also share the marker with someone else or designate it as one of my markers with a heart by clicking on it like this. This is now one of my markers. Here we are back at the search screen again. You can also search markers by researcher. This might allow you to become familiar with a particular researcher's interests. If you look at me, for example, among other things, you'll find that there are a number of markers associated with the city's maritime heritage. Finally, you can search for markers according to keywords in the title. For example, if I type Kozala, I get these markers, including the Holocaust Memorial in the Kozala Cemetery. Let's go back to the main menu. If you've designated some markers as my markers by putting a heart on them, you can call them up by clicking on the My Markers button. And again, you can list them using the list function. Or you can use the map function. You can also use augmented reality if you happen to be located inside Rijeka. You you just click on the AR button. The augmented reality mode works with your camera. You hold the camera up and markers appear. They're larger if they're closer to you and smaller if they're far away. You can click on a marker and bring up the information card. The Rijeka and Flux app already included 2 markers of importance to Jewish history: the Tempio Grande synagogue, as well as the Holocaust memorial in the Kozala cemetery. Thanks to Rina Brumini's collaboration, we've now included 5 new markers: the Calle del Tempio synagogue, the Orthodox synagogue, the Sushek Jewish community, the Jewish cemetery and burial home, and the Rijeka's Stolpersteinen. The Calle del Tempio synagogue is the oldest one in the city. Located in the Old City, it was established in 1837 as a bequest by Moses Saul Halevi for the growing Jewish community that had first arrived in the late 18th century. It eventually became too small and was replaced in 1903 with the grandiose Tempio Grande, which served the Reformed community. The Orthodox synagogue served a different community, Orthodox Jews who sought refuge in the Rijeka after fleeing persecution in Eastern Europe. They acquired the lot in 1928 and commissioned 2 engineers, Giuseppe Farkas and Vittorio Anghial, to build a small synagogue and ritual bath. The beautiful modernist synagogue is where the Jewish community has gathered since the end of the Second World War, following the destruction of the Tempio Grande by the Nazi occupiers. The Sushek Jewish community organized a burial society, or Chevra Kadisha, in the 1930s under very challenging circumstances. Their gathering place was a private apartment and is invisible unless you know where to look. The only trace remaining of their presence there are the 2 holes left by the mezuzah on the doorpost of a building on Strossmayer Street. The Jewish cemetery and funeral home are also highlighted. Although the first burials were held in 1875, the cemetery has been continuously in use since 1904 by both the Rijeka and Sushek Jewish communities. The funeral home was built by engineer Francesco Placek towards the end of the 19th century. Like the Orthodox synagogue, it is in a modernist style. Finally, the app introduces Rijeka's Stolpersteins, or stumbling stones, which mark the place where victims of the Shoah lived. On the anniversary of their deportation, sisters Andra and Tatiana Bucci laid 10 of these for members of their family killed by the Nazis in Moshe al-Baharia, Slaviše Vajneračiće, and Blaže Polića streets. We would like to invite you to explore these markers. In addition to a longer text explaining the history of these important sites, you'll also find many historical and contemporary photographs going into greater detail. We hope you've enjoyed this short introduction to the app. We hope you will download the Rijeka Fiume and Flux app in the Google Play Store or the Apple Store.